3. Oh, I was wrong. I was off by 2 seconds. Welcome back to the EU Wayback Machine with the Drexel arc, Marvel issues 11 to 14. How y'all doing today?
Doing fantastic. Looking forward to another great episode. A lot of pirates in these comics.
Yeah, but no pirating. I mean, I'm a pirate. I'm pirating this, so I can relate.
There's a lot of pirates going around. I was working on some, and pirates came up with that. It's a Nightwing thing, and I was like, oh, look at all these pirates. What does that have to do with this character? But
yeah, well, we got long ago in a galaxy far away, far away, there exists a state of cosmic civil war. A brave alliance of underground freedom fighters has challenged the tyranny and oppression of the awesome Galactic Empire, and this is their story. Stan Lee presents Star Wars, the greatest space fantasy of all. Quotations.
It's interesting your version says Stan Lee because my version says Lucasfilm presents.
Oh, what version do you have, Scott? What is that? Which one?
So I have the old school one. I have the Dark Horse. This is the first time they reprinted it in trade paperback, which was around 2001, 2002. Doom World. So they've republished these in like trade paperback forms numerous times. Dark Horse did it again with their omnibus collection, and then Marvel's done it with their Epic collection. But this was the first time it was reprinted.
That's interesting. That's really interesting because I have the Marvel omnibuses, and they have that. They have Stan Lee Presents. So that's neat. That's a neat little detail for I suppose for the super collector out there. Gotta know those.
Like Brennan. Must have everything.
Yeah, you know. Who do we got on board here? We got Archie Goodwin. Love to see it. Writer and editor. That's tough. It's hard to edit yourself. I tell you. Carmine Infantino. Classic artist. We're talking the co-creator of the second Flash, or the Flash that everybody knows, the guy with the all red suit. Fantastic artist. Little bit, not really my cup of tea when it comes to Star Wars. But then again, this is early days. People are not really. It's hard to get a grasp of what like Star Wars is supposed to look like even now. So I cut him a lot of slack. With Terry Austin on inks, one of the best inkers ever. In the business, Joe Rosen, Saul Letter, Janice Cohen, great colorist, and Roy Thomas, who's the collective editor, and he's a legend. So,
yeah, it's interesting to note that Terry Austin here, who has credit as an artist, he was actually a writer on Splinter of the Mind's Eye when Dark Horse did it in comic form in 1995. So he actually came back.
He was a writer for it.
He was a writer for it, the comic version.
I'm wondering if he made the. He made the change where it was Luke couldn't swim, or they made it that they both couldn't swim, or whatever it was.
Very possible. that actually might be true, Alex. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a good catch. I did not think. Yeah, no. Yeah, he probably was, or at least had some input.
Which is cool.
Yeah, that is a solid team of creators. You're talking Star Wars already has like this is. Some of these guys are a little bit old, like Carmine Infantino. He created Flash in the 50s, but like he's like a legend. Like it's like getting Francis Ford Coppola to make your movie before the newest Francis Ford Coppola movie. But you understand.
Yes, the new one. We don't talk about that
one. But that aside, like that's really interesting. Star Wars already commands names like. Big names in terms of this era of comics.
Yeah. See, if you weren't here, I would not have had any of that info. So we missed this voice for this podcast.
I'm be honest. I didn't even when I read this, I didn't even think about that. I just noticed that now. So.
Well, that's what rereads are for. You notice something new every time. So
that's true. Absolutely. So in terms of continuity, what we got here, this is episode 4 of our podcast. So we covered A New Hope. We covered the Aduba 3 arc of Marvel. Then we went to Keeper's World from Pizzazz. And now we're back to Marvel here. And it's a very similar storyline. I would say out of all of these issues, they have very good ideas in terms of scenes that you'd like to depict. I can see a lot of these scenes playing out with kids acting out these scenes with action figures, I think.
Yeah.
Very image driven. But in terms of story, I don't know that it's connected super well. Very similar to the Aduba 3 arc. I have the same criticisms that I had with that series of comics as I do with this one. So very similar. I think C-3PO, as I said in the Pizzazz arc, he's written very well. You can definitely hear C-3PO's voice, Anthony Daniels, in that series. But in this series, it isn't as good, I don't think. He's trying a little bit too hard to be funny, and I don't think it comes off as clear as it probably could.
That's right. Before I follow up on Scott's point, because I agree, I want to point out, if you look, there's a Hedgie being killed in a throwaway panel.
Yes.
In between stories. That's very funny. Poor Hedgie. Yes, I definitely agree.
He's also killed in a different way, because I think he's last depicted, I went back and checked in the previous Marvel issues, and they were fighting that lizard that was shooting lasers out of its head. I think that's how it got him, because you don't see him. You see him getting hit by the blast, not directly, but in his vicinity, and then you don't see him again in that issue. But here it looks like he's hit by a speeder or something. It seems like from that that speeder gang with the guy with the very villainous name that I keep forgetting.
Sir Arrogantus.
Arrogantus, yeah. So it looks like Arrogantus got him in this panel, but it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Interesting.
When battles are going on, things get blurry. It's hard to tell. Maybe
sometimes you kill the last member of a species twice. Just it happens.
Well, you gotta genocide something sometimes, like the Inzani. But I don't think I'll ever get my wish.
What do we think of Chewbacca here?
Chewbacca's face, yeah. I mean, that is.
He looks a little Sasquatchy. He
Yeah.
looks really Sasquatchy, actually. Yeah. He looks a little too Sasquatchy.
He looks obviously like a human in a costume. Like he's drawn as a human in a costume, or with a wig, or face paint or something.
Yeah.
It's not really working out.
I
also think it's Chewie's. I think this comes into play a little bit later, more so, but I feel like Chewie's not really well depicted in this series, like at all. I think he's way too aggressive all the time. Like he's at 10 at any given moment. He's willing to just murder someone, and I don't really think of Chewie like that. He's willing to kill, obviously, but like.
Well,
I feel like he's
savage,
actually the more reasonable two of him and Han, which is strange to think about. But
you're probably right.
It's funny to think about it like that. It's like Han is the less reasonable of the two. But yeah. To add to Scott's earlier point, that's a lot. That's a lot of this era of Marvel comics is they'll just lurch from one story to the next. With X-Men, you don't really notice it. You're just like, oh, they're fighting, Arcade. Oh, they're fighting Magneto. Oh, they're fighting, the Juggernaut. With Star Wars, it's a lot more noticeable. It's a lot more distracting how they just lurch to the next conflict. It's just like, and we're done, and we're gonna fight a dragon now, or we're gonna fight some space pirates, or fight a different sect of space pirates.
Galaxy's a big place.
Yeah, it's almost like they didn't set this out in storyboard format. They just had certain ideas. Okay, we want sea serpents fighting pirates. We want this scene of a pirate ship on a water planet. They got those scenes in there, and those look fantastic. But the interconnectivity about how they get there is a little bit suspect. And we see, I think this is the first time we actually get two arcs going concurrently. We have like Han and Leia on Crimson Jack's ship, and then we also have a Luke on the water planet with the pirates. There's two different groups of pirates, one that rides sea serpents, and then another one, there's a governor guy that's in a wood seafaring ship on the water that I guess is the remnants of the ship that he originally crashed on that planet. So
and Andrew Helm says, I like that these Star Wars comics maintain a continuous arc right up until the Empire Strikes Back. At least an overarching continuous plot or arc. Yeah. If not in the as you were saying, the journey to each thing.
as I read this, I think that Pizzazz should be moved further down on the timeline, because this is a good connection point right from the previous Aduba 3 arc. So we see Han got his money stolen from Crimson Jack initially in that first arc. Then he made up some money on that world with the speeder gang and the lizard that was shooting lasers out of its head. I guess he got paid off by some of the peasants, some of the farmers there for his mercenary work with the Aduba 8 group. And then he left that planet. He has some money, but not enough to pay off Jabba. So at this point, we see with the first issue, he's actually going back to rejoin the rebels when he gets intercepted by Crimson Jack again, which I believe they say they put a homing beacon on his ship. That's how they found him a second time. And it works a little bit odd, because they sort of catch him when he's exiting hyperspace. So they like know his trajectory about where he's going to exit hyperspace even before he does. They're sitting there waiting for him.
Also, Lucas Gerson says Drexel arc with that water-covered planet dominated by scavengers and sea monsters. Looks like the movie Waterworld.
Yep, very much so. And very similar to the holiday special cartoon with with Boba Fett. Yeah. That's definitely what
it also became a
immediately
children's
thought
book,
of.
like last
Where
year.
he's riding the creature.
Right.
A lot of creatures.
Yeah. That's not one of the Empire ships. It's our old... that's not one of the Empire ships. It's our old pirate pal, Crimson Jack. I'm trying to see where it said the homing beacon thing. I don't know if...
They call it a tracer, I think.
Tracer.
Top right panel.
Top right panel?
Yeah.
Oh, the planted some kind of tracer aboard the first time he grabbed us. There you go. So we got that there.
Back in Star Wars number 7.
There we got Leia up there.
Yeah, so they bring up aboard the ship via tractor beam. So they capture the Falcon, they capture Han and Chewie, and he sees Leia's already captured there. So they captured Leia because Leia actually left Yavin 4. Luke was supposed to be on a scouting mission, not to meet up with an established rebel base, but to actually go look for a new rebel base. He crashes on Drexel, unbeknown to Leia and everybody else, but Leia goes out looking for him and gets intercepted and captured by Crimson Jack.
And she continues to not look like Leia. The only way I know it's Leia is because the outfit and the haircut, but she just does not in any way, shape, or form look like Carrie Fisher here. She kind of looks like...
She looks more like Phoenix.
Phoenix? You mean like the X-Men?
Yeah, the X-Men character. She looks like... She has like a similar face to how Jean Grey is often drawn. Obviously the hair is wrong, but like...
Yeah,
like that looks not dissimilar to how John Byrne would draw. Maybe a little meaner, maybe slightly more unhappy, but that's generally what Phoenix would look like.
Yeah, as we get to
eyebrowy.
When we get to Drexel, Luke is very indistinguishable from some of the Dragon Lord riders, the Sea Serpent riders. They all look the same. One guy in the water looks exactly like Luke Skywalker.
It's a bit weird to me that they always make Luke real huge every time. Like there's some Star Wars posters from the 70s where Luke has like the shirt's open. He's so jacked.
You mean like when Leia's holding his leg?
Yeah. Which is right. Yeah, that's weird in retrospect. But and then in the 90s toys, I don't know if anybody had any of these, but the big buff Luke Skywalker from like the first couple of waves, where he looks like He-Man. I had one of those. That was fun. That was good. I mean, it looked terrible.
So.
Well, the original ones, the original action figures from the 1970s were normal size, but in '97, I believe everybody looked super buff. Like even the women,
they were all
even Leia and Mon Mothma were.
They were all deadlifting at the gym.
So like, it's every couple of years they're like, let's just make Luke just jacked, just huge, just a huge guy, and it doesn't really work. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's all right.
Well, you weren't here last time, but me and Brennan came up with a theory that because Splinter of the Mind's Eye is coming up. at this point, Luke doesn't know that Leia's his sister, and he really wanted to impress her. So every chance he got on a spaceship before the next mission, he was lifting, getting jacked.
Yeah, that is true. I think honestly, it's just the style of comic book writing.
Yeah, I think
but
so.
It's interesting if you compare this arc, Luke's character, and how he relates to Leia with the Pizzazz comic. He's a lot more comfortable with Leia in the Pizzazz arc than he is here. Here he's a little bit kind of strange, like he doesn't know Leia real well here, and even doesn't really know Han super well, because as we get into, I think it's issue 14, he doesn't quite agree with Han's approach to what they're going to do with the Falcon there, and he just punches him in the face. But we'll get to that later.
To be fair, it's they don't know each other very well.
Yeah.
None of them, like they only just met still. But
to be fair, they went through some big stuff together. So
that's true.
I mean, when you go through a big thing like that, it happens a lot in like wartime and stuff, where like you just like those brothers in arms, right? Like you get really close when you have life-threatening stuff happen. So I can buy that they've gotten closer, but still be like, it's one thing to like survive something with somebody and feel like a deeper connection. It's another to like on the day-to-day just have like normal conversations, because you're like, yeah, we went through this big thing, but I still don't know you, like really. So, but I could also understand being like, but definitely like if their life's in danger, like I feel like I need to stop that. It's like there is a deeper.
They're in a weird spot right now. They're in a weird spot, especially since they immediately split up the gang, which I still think was probably a good idea, just because I think that Han story really worked, really kicked off the series well. But now we're starting to see like, all right, now we have to work with that.
I also really, I think you're a little bit underrated, but despite the silliness of the outfit, I do think that Crimson Jack is a pretty good antagonist, at least for Han.
I think he's cool.
He's
a lot cooler than the governor on the water planet on Drexel, the pirate leader.
And then we got the lady with the hat again. I forget her name.
The beret.
Jolly, yeah.
Jolly.
The Jolly, right.
These pirates, cool. They're not very bright, are they?
No, they're very greedy. Like Crimson Jack is always out for money, and the other pirate on Drexel, he's always looking to like cannibalize any ship that crash lands on the planet, and he's like super obsessed of salvaging anything he can. He's not really that interested in actually getting off the planet, which a lot of his men seem to be interested in, but like he just likes to be the captain of his own ship and just call orders and order people around and that. So
I mean, hey, power corrupts. I get it.
Yeah.
Andrew Helm. Sorry, I didn't. Go ahead, Al, and then I'll say it. Andrew Helm.
I was just going to make a joke about the Star Trek.
What was the joke about Star Trek?
Oh, I was going to be like, Crimson Jack listened to Kirk. He never let them take him off the bridge.
I like that. That's good. But Kirk would smoke Crimson Jack, just saying. But it gets worse with Luke's depiction in the last Marvel comic, issue 107, where he's like a blonde Rambo. Yes, he has really long hair in issue 107, and he's jacked. It's really bad and as it gets to the end. I wanted to read this particular section real quick because I noticed this, and I was like, hold on. First moments of love. But Crimson Jack goes, and I could be, again, partners, we're past dessert, blah, blah, blah. Or your ability to make Princess Leia here cooperate. And then Han's like, happy to oblige, Jack. You see that tidy furniture you pried me from was a reward, blah, 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 blah. And then he looks at her and, but what? No one knows that during that rescue, the princess, or the prim and proper princess fell in love? He's like, put some feeling into your royalness. Our lives are at stake. And then they kiss. They kiss for the first time.
That's strange to think about, isn't it? This is the first time.
Yeah. Thanks for keeping.
Marvel, something, Scott. You mentioned the love interest thing. I think one of Marvel's issues that's gonna keep coming back is Marvel and DC love triangles. Superman with Lois or Lana Lang. Spider-Man with Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy, Nightwing with Batgirl or Starfire, Leia with Luke or Han. One of those is the wrong answer, but they don't know that yet.
Yeah, even from the very beginning, it's obvious it was a point of speculation amongst fans, and you can even see this on like the making of Star Wars: A New Hope, where they interview young Mark Hamill, right after the first film, and this is even before Empire Strikes Back, where they weren't sure if Leia was going to go with Luke or going to go with Han, and I'm sure this was what fans were speculating about back then. So this just kind of feeds into what fans were looking for. Is she going to go for Han or is she going to go for Luke? And here, I obviously they're doing this to save Han, because I guess Crimson Jack was just going to shoot Han and Chewie and ransom Leia back to either the rebellion or the Empire. But they make up this story about the Alliance treasury world on Drexel, which turns out to be a water planet, but Crimson Jack doesn't know that. He's never been there. So he thinks, the Alliance central bank, their treasury is on Drexel. There's a treasure there. Let's go figure out where that is, and we'll split the money with Han, because I guess Han comes up with this story. So
I do like this little thing though. He goes, "Thanks for keeping silent up till now. I know it goes against your nature not to be screaming about what I'm doing wrong." Then she says, "Actually, I've been speechless. It's long enough since escaping the Death Star that I'd forgotten just how muddled your rescues get. And just what is this supposed to accomplish?" He says, "I'm not sure, but at least it's fun. And the more Fred Jack has to think about, the longer he'll keep us alive." Then she says, "Allow me to make a contribution." And she knees him in the head. It says, "How dare you, Han Solo? How dare you betray my feelings for you?"
That's brutal. He has a concussion.
Yeah.
He is concussed.
She went really hard with that. And he's still really from the next panel.
That's her putting some feeling into it.
That's true.
She committed to
he
the
said,
bit.
yes. He said, put some feeling into it.
So there you go.
This guy literally has an eye patch. He is my favorite character. That is the greatest Star Wars pirate.
I wonder if during that whole exchange, Crimson Jack was just waiting over there and going, "Wow, they are taking a while."
Yeah, he's just watching it like, is this really going on here? Is this, or are they faking it?
It's a really awkward PDA. They're just like, okay, all right, okay.
I also like what Jolly says. She's like, "For a pampered noble lady, you handle that wise mouth Corellian pretty well, princess. Of course, I'd put a blaster in his belly if he tried kissing me." Which maybe because Leia already kind of likes him. Mm-hmm. Maybe she let it linger a little too long.
Oh.
Well, I think what Leia's doing here is trying to sow dissent among Crimson Jack's crew, and it pays off later on, as we'll see. So, it actually works out.
For sure. Hold on. I think it's just
strategy going.
Your cousin Yennis says an alternative Star Destroyer variant. I think it's just meant to be a normal one, but it does look a bit off because there's this weird thing.
They're still learning. They're still learning how to draw these things. They're not. Star Wars is big and it's like a cultural icon already, but it's not like they don't know how to draw these things from memory yet. And also, Marvel is a little bit still kind of. Star Wars saved them from bankruptcy, but a lot of the editors and writers and all these things, they don't like that it saved them from bankruptcy. They're like, we wish we pulled ourselves out rather than with this. At least that's the impression that I get.
We also, I don't think it's in this issue, but in a later issue, when Crimson Jack talks to Han on their way to Drexel, he tells him the backstory about how he actually got that Star Destroyer. And it's in reference to the Rebels' first victory over the Empire, which we know now to be Tapwara, but I don't know if we knew back then. So it was a derelict ship that kind of escaped the Battle of Tapwara, the Death Star plans. So that's how he found it and got that ship. So that was kind of interesting to me.
That is really cool.
We got Luke shooting a little water lizard here.
I like the design of this thing.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah, that's sweet. I want to fight that. Put that in a video game. I want to fight that. So let's take a look. So C-3PO, he was kind of moving a little strange in that panel. Is he capable of that sophisticated of movement?
I don't know. Probably not. But things happen.
Hey, that's a huge nitpick, but he's twisting. He's twisting pretty far.
So
that's acceptable there, but
when he actually goes back into his ship there, the inside appears to be bigger than the outside. It's a relatively small ship. Yeah.
Yes.
But it looks relatively small from the from that wide shot from the outside.
It does look like it would be pretty packed in there.
But it's very spacious inside because part of it gets flooded and they're in there walking around, both the droids, a lot of room in that inside of that.
Yeah, it seems like early Marvel had this issue because we also had the same problem with the TIE fighter, and we had like a whole like squad of stormtroopers inside one TIE fighter. So I think they just didn't understand dimensions back then, I guess. I don't know.
They also probably just didn't have we all know that TIE fighters are one-seaters, but like they probably didn't know that at the time.
Sure.
I did like that sound effect they did with the fweet. I don't know if you guys saw that on the
previous panel, or
yeah, on the previous bit with the I liked how that's a very 70s sound effect for R2D2 right there. I like that. That's neat. There at the bottom. Fweet.
Yeah.
Got R2 using his scomp link to open the door.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
When they blast out of the escape pod there and they yell eject, I kept thinking to Rogue One where they say launch,
Yeah. I like his little space binoculars. That's cool.
Oh yeah.
And then we have this. This is pretty cool. We got
It's time
another
for a Godzilla fight.
Yes, kaiju. Let's go. Next issue, Doomsday. Let's stop sharing for a second and get to the next issue.
While he's pulling that up, what did we think of the arc as a whole here? Brandon. Brandon.
How are y'all?
Doing well. How are you doing, buddy?
Enjoying the Drexel comics, are we?
Yeah, we just finished the first comic of this
issue 11.
I have to go out to lunch like immediately, but I just wanted to pop in because I've just reread these for this. And can I just give a short
sure,
of course,
feeling on them? I think these are the weakest comics we've read so far, weaker than Pizzazz and weaker than Aduba. The coolest thing is the serpents on the planet, the water dragons. Those are pretty cool. Cool to know they're out there in Star Wars. But other than that, wasn't really feeling it.
That's completely fair.
That's fair.
Exactly my opinion, to be completely honest.
Luke is just a little weird in these. He feels a little off to me, like not Luke-like. So yeah.
Well, we're about to get into it because we haven't seen too much Luke yet. We just got to him. So
I agree that it's a step down. I don't know that it's a big step down, but it's fair to say I think this is the weakest one. It does have some good scenes, some good artwork. There's one depiction that's like it's like both pages. It appears on the right and left page, so you get like sort of a bigger view of the water world and some of the sea serpents fighting the pirate ships and the sea skimmers later on. I don't think it's in this issue, but
yeah, there is.
I do like certain scenes overall.
And this predates Camino as a Star Wars water world by what? How many years? 30, 20? By a long time.
A long while. Yeah.
Decent stretch.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like the idea of water worlds. It's pretty neat. We get another important one way later on in the Marvel comics as well with the Iskalon stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Pretty cool. It's interesting that they established it so early on. Just the polar opposite of Tatooine, right? Sand world, desert world.
They probably had a similar line of thinking to Lucas, which is like, all right, what did the movie do? Let's do the exact opposite and show the exact opposite. So he thought ice, they thought water. So it's kind of parallel thinking.
That's a very interesting point.
They're skimming over the water just like I used to whip around Tatooine in my old land speeder. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking they were setting good scenes to where you could act out the fights being depicted in the comic with your own action figures. If you're a kid kind of reading this comic book, you probably have like an outdoor pool or somewhere you could integrate some action. Yeah, integrate some maybe pirate action figures that aren't Star Wars action figures, because I remember doing that as a kid, where you didn't have like all the Star Wars characters. You had to improvise and use some extra characters from the outside that maybe weren't Star Wars, like
Some
wrestlers
Godzilla toys or something for
or
the
something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a
And
really good
I think both with the Aduba arc and with this arc, you're able to do that in such a way where it really matches what you would imagine doing as a kid, you know, playing either in like a sandbox or near a pool, you know, with boats and pirates and whatever sea monsters. I definitely see that here.
You know what's interesting, Scott? You know what's interesting? You bring that up. Marvel at this time was famous for doing licensed properties, not just Star Wars, but like toys. So Transformers, which is of my interest, and right now I'm currently reading their G.I. Joe from 1983. And the writer Larry Hama takes great care to make sure you know exactly what each Joe like uses as their signature weapon and all their all the little details about them. Make sure you know their names.
Mm-hmm.
So Marvel was very careful about doing, trying to encourage people to get with the product.
Yeah.
So I think that's an astute observation. I think you're dead on about that. They knew they had to have known.
Well, even early on, the action figures I think made almost as much money as the movies, right? The ancillary materials related to Star Wars, the action figures, the dolls, whatever. And this comic arc, a good purpose in writing a Star Wars comic that's going to be integrated with the series is to support some of that to the extent that you can. So I think that's another reason that they would want to write a story like this.
Also, Luke's rocking a pink lightsaber this time around.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, we saw some lightsaber action in Pizzazz very briefly, and then we see a little bit here. He doesn't use it too much, very sparingly, but he does use it.
The way he grips lightsabers, he's always in these comics, he's holding it like a dagger. It seems like there's very little weight to it. He's just swinging it around like a little like mini club. You know,
I mean, wouldn't that be accurate though? I mean, the lightsaber, the light part wouldn't have any weight to it, right? It would just be the handle.
True, yeah.
I don't think that's inherently a contradiction.
I love the getup that the pirates have, though. It's such a distinct look and vibe.
Just wearing it like that's what you see on like a construction site.
Dude, Mario got into Star Wars. It's
another one of those
Mario.
Yeah, another
hats been real popular.
Jody had one of those hats, right? The green beret looking thing.
Yeah.
So we've got two groups of pirates in this arc.
Wolverine at the top. Look at that.
And
look at the hair.
And they're all idiots.
They're all idiots.
Everyone involved is kind of stupid.
Lucas Gerson says they got that pirate stuff too far in the last issues. I mean, a spaceship who looks like an actual sea ship was very creative and weird at the same time. I mean, they did that in what was it, the Bane comics, because there's the ship that like is literally just a pirate ship. So I don't know if that was an homage to this or it just happened.
Those of the Jedi, their ships are very interesting looking as well. In that era.
As we see. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say your cousin. Yeah, he just says that the way Luke handles the lightsaber is also indicative of his experience and knowledge and how to use them.
Absolutely.
Do you remember the Tag and Bink comics? There's a funny gag where they've both been trained as Jedi, so they're watching Luke fight with a lightsaber in Return of the Jedi, and they're like, "What lightsaber form is he using? He's just swinging it around like a blind wampa." And I just always laughed at that because it's kind of funny. He's not exactly a perhaps trained, skilled duelist in the book sense of dueling with a lightsaber.
He ain't no Mace Windu.
Not yet.
So this
maybe only post Return of the Jedi is he like that.
Yeah. Look at this guy though. That's I love that. That's crazy.
So the page we just saw might be my favorite one in these issues.
Yeah, can we go back to that? Second, I was going to say later. It's not revealed here, but in a later issue, they say that there's underwater mountains on this planet, and you can actually like stand inside them and breathe the air. I'm not sure how that works on a water planet, but it looks like one of the tops of the mountains is actually going through this pirate ship there through the mast there. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if these ships are stationary or they actually move, but they also have these like land speeder ships that they attack the sea serpents with. There's one of them there, and they go over water, and they use those to fight, not the actual pirate ship. So I'm wondering if this ship that looks like a wood pirate ship is actually supposed to be that mountain that we see later on.
Every time I saw this panel, it always made me think of the old Disney adaptation of Swiss Family Robinson. Like they build that tree house up in the tree, and it's really intricate, and it just makes me think immediately of that. But also kind of the rope bridges and stuff on the ship is kind of reminiscent of Endor, which will be later on a little bit. So that's interesting too.
I was gonna say, I kind of got a little bit of a Scooby-Doo vibe. I know I get a Scooby-Doo vibe from a lot of things. I love getting Scooby-Doo vibes, but specifically, I was thinking of obviously the Captain Cutler aesthetic and the Redbeard. Is his name Redbeard? If it's not Redbeard, then I'm deeply embarrassed.
Crimson Jack. Crimson Jack.
No. The Scooby-Doo villain.
I forget. I know it's a pirate-looking dude. I don't remember his name.
Yeah, they all got red beards, and they all call themselves Redbeard or Crimson or something like that. Everybody loves being red something. But
Crimson
it looks like just two of those together: Scooby-Doo X Ewoks.
Crimson Jack should just be played by Andy Dalton, the quarterback in the NFL. He's a dead ringer for Crimson Jack.
Crimson Jack needs some pants.
Yeah,
really.
He loves showing off those legs. I mean,
his legs must be freezing all the time, just constant goosebumps.
Well, see, he's in a lot better shape than the pirate on the Drexel world, who's fat and not in shape. So I guess he's showing off because he can.
He's vain. He likes his body. You know.
In the upper left panel, he talks about the fact that he's able to afford to run this Star Destroyer because he has backers. And that's
that is interesting. It reminded me of the Errant Venture, which, as Booster Tarek would say, it costs too much to run. Like it costs more than it's really worth. He runs a Star Destroyer because it's a good show, right? He's sort of showing off. So that's sort of in a similar way to we see here with Crimson Jack. He has a Star Destroyer just because, even though it doesn't make practical sense, or financial sense to run it, because it's probably super expensive, requires a lot of crew and whatnot. But he just likes being badass and having a Star Destroyer.
Yeah, I mean, I feel really pretty good
piece
too.
Of world building.
Yeah.
Like the only people who can have these things are governments.
Yeah, that aren't the Empire. Yeah.
If you want to steal the contents of someone's cargo bay, then if they see a Star Destroyer coming at them, then they're just going to go, okay, better just go with it and hope for the best.
What in the Robin Hood? That's crazy.
It's a merry man.
I guess so.
Look at
those sideburns. Look at
Chewie just looks like a rabid dog.
He does. He looks like a dog.
Oh yeah, he's very upset.
This guy looks like Ash from the Evil Dead or something.
They could not draw Chewbacca early on in these comics.
Chewbacca looks like if he was a man Chihuahua.
Yeah. Yeah.
Elvis hairline. Yeah, we've got Elvis on the right. He didn't die. He faked his death and went out.
He's in Star Wars. He went to a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, exactly.
Those do not look like official.
That's the
chairs
finale
for
to these.
star mapping. That's like a lounge chair.
Oh my
these
goodness.
pirates, they're not efficient.
You'd be like way back here the whole time. How could you even reach your instruments?
No.
Yeah.
So I like how Jolly just shoots two pirate crew members, and then Crimson Jack just lets her get away with it. She just kind of walks off.
Cold-hearted, for sure.
She punches Han, which I forgot to mention. That's just kind of fun. He does strike at a woman though, I think, right here.
Yeah, and then she just sort of walks away. Like she's not display. I mean, she just murdered two of his crew, but she gets away with it.
This is not a tight ship being run.
No.
It's very Yondu Guardians of the Galaxy-esque type of crew.
Yeah.
It's the vibe you get here. I'm gonna have to head out.
He may have been your father, but he's not your daddy.
Bye.
Have a good one, Brennan.
Bye.
Good seeing
Thanks,
you.
Brennan, for coming.
Bye, Brennan.
If Booster Terek's any indication, probably less than a skeleton crew.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it has to be. No shot.
But that's basically the end of this issue. Issue 12. Let's move on to issue 13.
There's a lot of talking in these, but not a lot of happening in these.
Yeah.
Yeah, a
that's
lot of
fine.
explanations. We see some reference to Jedi Knights in the Old Republic. I think it's in this upcoming issue 13. But we got in the last issue some backstory of Crimson Jack and how he got the Star Destroyer. So I do like that they are cementing. This isn't just a random adventure. They're trying to cement this within how it relates to the rest of the Star Wars galaxy, and like this stuff
Because
actually
early on.
does count, even if it's not referenced anywhere else except in Marvel Comics.
Yeah, which I appreciate that they, even back then, they were trying to like have some sort of logic. Because I mean, to be fair, like they had episode 4. Like, how exactly do you understand like the rules for the entire universe when you're only given that movie? So
Sure.
I appreciate working with that to try to make some sort of sense moving forward.
I think is like I think that's why Marvel was successful with licensed books, is because they at least tried. It don't always work, but they tried to put people on those who really cared about the material. Like Larry Hama was in the army, I believe. So when he was on G.I. Joe, he's like, I want to treat this with respect and I want to do this well. When Simon Furman took over Transformers, he was like, I have been working on this for years, not getting any recognition because I'm in the UK and they don't, we only have, there's like a closed ecosystem for comics. I want to like really show off what I can do in the American market.
Legends Literature's here.
Hey, what's up?
We have a fan. Too. He likes this arc.
Well, good.
I don't think I'm trying to think. I don't know if I hate any particular arc in the Marvel issue. There might be some I don't love. I don't know if there's any that I.
So, Alex, where would you rate this in relation to the others that we've covered so far?
Oh, definitely the weakest for me. But I don't hate this one. I think I'm still of the opinion that Keeper's World is pretty good. But definitely Aduba 3 has been the peak so far for me.
I pretty much agree. I don't mind this. I'll be honest. Outside of like little things, I don't have a whole lot to say. I think these are just solid entries, just keeping going.
I also
regular job or monthly issues.
Yeah, I love the little title cards they have for these. I think they're so fun. The Day of the Dragon Lords. I think it's so cool. So fun. It looks like we continue to have the same people, or a little bit different. But
yeah, there's a Rick Parker is now doing the lettering, and the lettering seems like it's pretty solid. So I'm interested to see, now that I know that the editor is different. I'm interested to see if they switch up R2D2 sound effects. That might be interesting. See if I can notice. But
Legends Literature, he says, I think the Marvel comics got a bit stale post Empire, but these early issues are great, and the late issues of the Nagai are my favorites.
That's fair. That's fair.
I know some of my highlights are the Shara Bree stuff, but we won't get to that for a good long while. So,
yeah.
David Michelinie's run, I think that's how you say his name, is
right.
Yes.
probably my second favorite of the Marvel runs.
Interesting.
Followed by Joe
he was
Duffy.
another. Oh, of course. He was another regular. He wrote like 100 issues of Spider-Man, which I did not know. I knew he wrote a lot of Spider-Man. I did not know he wrote like 100 issues of Spider-Man. That's crazy. Second only to Stan Lee and Dan Slott in terms of number of issues written.
I'm a little confused, Brennan. Thanks for letting me come on and share my thoughts. I'd give this arc maybe a 5 out of 10. It's middling. Decent story arc. Crimson Jack is hot. I mean, fair enough.
5 out of 10 is a fair grading, I think.
So.
Yeah.
Maybe 4.5.
Yeah.
It's got cool monsters. I'm willing to give it a 5. It got cool monsters. It does have the weird fat pirate though.
Yeah, I mean, you fat shame him?
Well, Leia fat shames at the end when she gets captured by him. So,
well,
it's fair game in the 1970s.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. This guy's interesting.
That guy's my favorite guy. So a little context here at where we are in the story. Luke gets captured by this governor pirate who uses Luke. Normally, whenever they capture somebody from off-world, they scavenge their ship and they kill the whole crew. But since Luke has the droids, Luke talked himself into keeping the droids intact because he can work on certain things that they salvage and get them into better mechanical shape, namely the land speeders, I think he mentions. But this guy in the red shirt that goes after him, he's the machine smith that they previously had before they found Luke. So Luke sort of takes his job with the droids because I guess Luke is the only person that can communicate with R2-D2. So they sort of need Luke around to like supervise R2 and 3PO's work, the mechanical work. But the old machine smith, he actually goes after him here. Unfortunately, gets yeeted off the ship when Luke kicks the eject button or whatever. But I like that. There's a little bit of context. There's a story behind it. It's not just some random guy attacking Luke.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done.
I liked the. Did you guys notice that he said, "You'll be dead"? That's fun.
Yes.
That's my.
Yeah.
I think that is my most referenced line from A New Hope. Is the "He doesn't like you. I don't like you either." If it's not that, it's top two.
And
Sure,
Luke's
how many
just
times
there. He's like sort of talking to himself what he's gonna do, and then this guy just sneaks up behind him and then he says, "And then you'll be dead, boy," or whatever. It's kind of funny.
This keeps happening to me.
Yeah, you just can't catch a break. And he gets back to the fat guy. They're getting their little oil baths in barrels for some reason. So that's
Straight
good for
up
them.
for real wooden barrels, which I guess it makes sense. They're on a water planet. They have like one pirate ship made of wood. What else are they gonna do? But, you know.
All the metal is valuable and it's being used to
I got some metal right here.
create those land speeders or build a new ship, I guess is what they're trying to do to get off the planet.
Guess so.
That's why all metal is not used for something like giving droids an oil bath.
Yeah, we got somebody hanging right there. That's kind of crazy because kids would be reading this.
Yes,
And that's the
talked earlier about. He talked earlier about you lost the water skimmers or whatever they're called.
Yeah, so they actually lose some in the battle to fight off the sea serpents, and they captured Luke. So I think they were actually going for Luke's ship, but they didn't get it because he ejected an escape pod or whatever. But they found out that Luke had droids. That droids were valuable, and I guess served a better purpose, even though they lost some of the land speeders in that battle. So,
yeah. Trying to what was going on in this particular panel? I forget.
So they're telling about the pirate's backstory. I forget they just refer to him as the governor, the fat pirate. So he was actually a governor during the Old Republic. He was a governor of an asteroid belt, not a planet, just an asteroid belt. I guess they had some sort of sound waves or some sort of interference that would make any ship that was passing through the asteroid belt as part of a trade route or something either crash or go off course, and then they were attacked by pirates, and he was sort of in on the pirate attack, so he got like half the proceeds from putting up with that. And eventually the Republic, as they found out this was happening, they sent Jedi Knights after him, and I think it was his father actually was with him, and that was his ship that actually crash landed on Drexel and served as the starting point for that wood ship that they built out of that mountain or whatever, to be seafaring pirates now. So he went from actually being governor, sort of like a quasi spacefaring pirate to a seafaring pirate on Drexel. So that was kind of interesting. I like that they put all this effort into creating this backstory in an otherwise action-filled comic. So it's kind of out of place, but I do appreciate that he actually has a story behind his character.
Yeah, that is actually really great.
Yeah.
We need a prequel novel by James Luceno on this guy in particular. So we got this break into the bridge, which is pretty cool. I like this little ship here.
And one thing I failed to mention was there was a mutiny on the ship where some of his crew actually thought he was crazy and tried to take over what he was doing, went against what he was doing. And those are the people that got exiled, abandoned, left to float out at sea, and they tamed these sea serpent lizards, what they call them, dragon lords. And that's this other group of pirates who they fight against. So it's the governor guy against these sea serpent riding group that were previously exiled, but now fight against them. And they're both trying to salvage any ship that crash lands on the planet.
Chewie looks like an ape in this. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you. That was my bad.
Oh no,
I just want to comment how Chewie looks like an ape in this panel.
He does look. At this time, Marvel was publishing Godzilla. They should have had Chewie fight Godzilla. He should have been their stand-in for King Kong. That's very Beast Riders of Onderon.
Very similar. Yep.
That's interesting. Yeah. But yeah, now they're fighting back against the Crimson Jack crew, and they made it, I guess, back to the Millennium Falcon. And then we cut back to what's going on with Luke. Dragon, a whole busted army of them. It's a full-scale attack.
That's a good scene. I feel like they had planned this scene and they just wrote a story around this scene, and I do like this. The sun rising and all the dragons coming out there. Yeah.
I mean, that's a sweet panel. Like that to me, like that's yeah. Look at that. Oh, it's perfect. I didn't notice he had a Santa Claus cape. This is the strangest character possibly of all time.
Yeah, you didn't like that?
He's got like a GI hat and like a general's uniform, but like a Santa Claus cape. Like what the fuck? Alternatively, red Padme's cape from the micro series.
Ellen,
so,
yeah. Ellen.
Well,
So
presumably
now,
what he's wearing is combined elements belonging to people from ships that they've scavenged.
True.
I'm sure that's the explanation. It's just kind of funny. He just has random things going on there.
Yeah. But we have a convergence of both the stories now, because now we have the Millennium Falcon showing up to the planet to help out Luke and everything. So we got convergence of those two.
Wouldn't that? Okay, I know there's big nitpicking, and I do love nitpicking these.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. Wouldn't that destroy the internal components of the Millennium Falcon if it hit the water like that and it hit the water again? I don't like the Millennium Falcon is not designed to skip like a stone.
No, I don't think so.
Han says that the Falcon can float. It is
Oh,
buoyant.
it can float. Oh,
Yes.
okay, all right.
I don't know how that works within the scientific context of the Star Wars universe, but
Right.
that is a thing.
Hey, and if any damages did come, we know that Han fixes this thing constantly, so it's not
That's true,
out of
that's true,
bounds
that's true.
that he just
That's
fixes it
true,
up
that's true.
afterwards. Yeah, after all, it's a hunk of bolts and scrap that he keeps holding together.
And
So-
and there is
Not
an
always very
explanation.
well, but
Yeah. There is an explanation as to why the Falcon crashes, though. So they escape Crimson Jack's ship after Jolly kind of goes crazy and like shoots the crew. I guess they arrive. The Crimson Jack arrives at the planet, and it's a water world. So he says, obviously, there's no Rebel Alliance treasury here. Han, what did you pull on me? So then they just leave, and I guess there's some explanation as to why this planet pulls in ships and they crash land on the water world on Drexel. There's some power source that like interrupts ships and it sort of draws them in almost like a tractor beam and like destroys their flight capacity, and that's why they crash. So big long explanation, but it does work. It makes sense.
I'd like to take note that
The cover of this was Chewbacca fighting with Luke and C-3PO, and this is the last panel of the story.
Yeah.
Classic comics clickbait there.
Yeah. It's okay though.
Cover bait, I should say. Oh,
Yeah,
no,
so
it's just like
I guess that's a selling point of this particular issue. But like they send Luke out in one of those water skimmers, and he sees that one of the other water skimmers is about to shoot Han and Chewie on the Falcon. I guess Leia's there too, but she's not on the outside. So Han gets knocked off. Chewbacca sees this, and even though Luke shoots the other sand skimmer or the water skimmer, Chewbacca thinks that Luke actually shot Han, so that's why he goes after him.
This is interesting because no one says this. This is just something they included in here as an old Cantina joke, because like this is Dune or something with a nice little like intro before the actual start of the chapter, and it goes, "What do you call someone who fights an enraged Wookiee? Barehanded, dead." Ha ha.
I like that.
Hilarious.
I think that's cute.
Put a lot of thought into that one.
Right?
That's very Marvel humor. That's very 60s to 70s Marvel humor. It's just have a little aside, just there and be like, a wise man once said, or something like that.
Yeah,
I like
this
that
is
cover.
an
That
amazing panel.
Oh yeah, the cover for this issue is the cover to the trade that you have, Scott, I believe.
Oh yes, this. Yep.
Yes.
Exactly right. Doom World, and it's the same title too. Doom
Yeah.
World. Or is this? The first one, the one before it is Doom World. This one's the Sound of Armageddon.
That's pretty good. I like that title. That's a pretty good one. Yeah, just
what is it's like a green fuzz around the planet, or is that just supposed to be the planet?
I think it's just supposed to be the planet.
Strange.
It's a good question because they seem to think that there's no land masses on the planet, but obviously you can see from space there's something, either mold growing on. I don't know if it's supposed to be an atmosphere or what, but it's like,
yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, if that's the atmosphere, then they need to get off there like now. That does not look healthy.
No, not at all.
Would this be a result of it being written in the way it was? Because at the time they presumably would have been using what's known as the Marvel method, right?
It's very possible. It's very probable even that the artist just drew something, and then the writer came back in. But they said that in previous issues, right? I feel like they would know at this point. Oh,
yeah.
This is a water planet.
There's also some reference to the pirate crew says, "Oh, by the 3 moons" or something. And in another planet or another panel, you can see the planet from afar, and there are 3 moons there. So it's like, okay, well, they know the artist knows something about the dialogue because there's some interconnectivity. I don't think that was a coincidence. So
also, we have Crimson Jack now, and he no longer has red hair. Now he's like a proper like ginger.
No.
Did
now he actually has red hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, there was another change in
There's a. Let me go back a second.
Janice something.
Janice Cohen.
Janice Cohen. Or no,
Yes.
that was the same. Was it? Anyway,
I don't remember. But
no,
it's a little different.
No, it wasn't. I think it was the same last name. I think it was the same last name, but it wasn't the same person. But that's interesting. Yeah, he is now just an actual redhead.
We got the Loch Ness Monster here.
Everyone's favorite cryptid.
yeah. So when Han gets blasted off the Falcon, he gets saved by the Dragon Lords, the
Dragon
ride
Lords.
the sea monsters. Yeah. Leia's still in the ship, and then I guess Luke and Chewbacca are still there fighting. But Leia grabs a blaster, and when they tow the Falcon in, when the pirates tow it in, like Leia just takes out a couple of the pirate crew before she's captured there.
Why, you fat-faced excuse for a leader? My friends were on that ship.
Oh, there's two. There's two fat jokes there. So Luke, and then we'll see Leia later on. So
all right, well, we'll keep a counter for that again. No, I'm kidding. We'll keep a counter for that one.
Although it wasn't depicted specifically, it's referenced that Luke crashed on Drexel. So this is like the first. This is the first instance because I think chronologically this takes place before the Pizzazz Keepers world. So this is the first instance of Luke crashing.
But now we have two examples.
Two overall.
Okay, we got one Leia and Luke, and we got two crashes. Right?
Yeah, two kisses, two Leia Luke kisses in A New Hope, and then two crashes. One in Pizzazz, one in Marvel.
All right, just want to make sure we keep track of both of them.
2 and 2.
Oh yeah.
That's gonna be fun by the end.
Look at that creature. Look at these creatures. I just love them. Look at that
so
little
fun.
one on his. Yeah, look at that.
It's like a Mushu kind of from Mulan.
It is. It's like the Luigi variant of Mushu.
Yeah. Man, it's just big kaiju battles kind of going on, and they're like experimenting on this little guy.
It looks like the sort of thing that should be guarding a little tiny castle.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. This was my least favorite issue on my first read through. This was my least favorite issue the second time. I just this one was not doing a lot for me.
No, yeah, it's there's not a lot of substance. It's more just like kind of stuff happening.
I do like the creatures though. These are I do really like these creatures.
Yes.
The art in these panels are fantastic. I like your cousin Yanis's comment there. Jolly kind of looks like the woman from the Red Alert 3 poster. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Look at that little World War II guy firing the artillery directly at the creature. He's got like the little helmet and everything, and he's got like a blue dress shirt on. Just a very random collection of things.
Yes.
So you can use your army figures, you could use sea monsters, you could like integrate anything that you have to play this out in action.
You got some toy dinosaurs, just make those be the water monsters.
Oh yeah.
I like how the sea serpent riders kind of are in scuba gear. They kind of got flippers.
Scuba Steve.
Yeah.
You know, if anybody knows Big Daddy. This guy's fun.
That's
Solid Snake over here. Oh, wait a second. I gotta this art right here is really funny of Luke.
So that's
And
Han.
this one.
Luke doesn't initially realize it's Han. But like I guess Han, so they're using the Falcon's energy to power the pirate's weapon that's supposed to take down Crimson Jack's Star Destroyer that's in orbit and have it crash on the planet so that they could salvage the parts of it. And I guess Han, it's not clear like if that's going to destroy the Falcon or what, but like Han's like, we're going to shut this down. I'm going to take my ship back. And then Luke's like, no, I have a plan. And he doesn't talk Han out of what he's doing. He just
punches him. He just punches him.
Very out of character of Luke, but interesting. Grabs your attention as a reader.
I also don't believe at this point in time, I don't buy for a second that Luke could punch Han and knock him out in one go. I don't buy that.
Well, he sucker punched him. He sucker punched him.
He did.
That's the only
he got him.
Yeah,
he did.
Fair.
I will say this is another recurring thing with Marvel is they always want to do action, and this has gotten them into trouble a few times. Specifically, with if anybody knows the story of Yellow Jacket and Wasp, the same thing happened. A similar thing happened. They're like, we want to have like an action shot, and they should not have had an action shot in that particular scene. So, yeah, I think Marvel we're starting to see some of the tropes of Marvel of the 70s here. We instead of Luke explaining himself, he just hits Han. We need to have a love triangle. We need to have creatures. We love creatures. We love big monsters. Some of those really work. I like the creatures. I am not a fan of the love triangle, obviously, and then the action stuff. That's just kind of like an annoying thing. It's like just use your words for once, please.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like the whole thing with Luke. So, but I mean, to be fair, this is before episode 5 or even episode 6. So He would be a bit more rash here, but I just don't see him punching a friend first and talking later. I feel like an enemy maybe I could breeze past that, whatever. But a friend, no, I feel like Luke would talk to him first. Then maybe do that if Han's being like unwilling to listen. I guess if you have to have a punch in that.
If it comes to it, but I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
He opens with that.
Yeah.
So this last scene, and we're almost to the end here, but there's a showdown between Leia and the Governor Pirate, and Leia just kills him. I guess or gets away, and then Chewie comes out, and then Luke and Han actually have part of the Millennium Falcon's lasers set up, and they actually shoot through the main mast of the pirate ship, and they escape, and it's basically the end. So assuming the pirate dies, they get Leia out safely, and that's basically the end. There's Luke swinging from one of the masts of the ship there, but
I missed the fat joke she made about him, but that's okay.
I think it's leading up right to that showdown between the pirate and Leia there. But
alrighty,
let's see if I can find it.
Yeah, I mean, I can go back a bit, but because I didn't see it, so I'm just here to be completely mean.
Make the trip alone, Pudgy. Or what does he say? So he says to Leia, "Move. We're visiting my sonic jammer crew." That's what I was thinking of. So that's the mechanism that makes the ships crash. And then she says, "Make the trip alone, Pudgy. I'm tired of being everybody's pawn." So Leia has a point there. I mean, she was captured by Crimson Jack earlier, and now captured by this other pirate. So
that could be another counter, honestly, is how many times people get captured, but we are going to lose track immediately. That's like every single piece of media.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of it.
Especially when we get the kids. When the kids come into the equation, we have Jaina, Jason, Anakin. Yeah. Man, they're like, let's kidnap these. Let's kidnap these.
Every time. Next issue, showdown.
Showdown.
But they successfully stopped the pirates here, it seems, and now they're kind of hanging out. Because it was just issues 11 and 14, right? It's no more.
Yep. So that's it. So I know when Nathan P. Butler covered this in his chronology, he included issue 15 as well. I think he actually covered Splinter of the Mind's Eye before this arc too. I don't know if that's proper or if Brennan's right. So either he's right or Brennan's right.
I'm just going by whatever Brennan made, but we could be wrong. But I'll trust Brennan until proven otherwise.
Yeah. So final thoughts. What are your final thoughts, Robert? We'll start with you.
Yeah.
I think not the strongest arc. Archie Goodwin, he's just starting off. I don't think he's quite got the hang of things yet. Things get better with the wheel arc that's coming up later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
That it?
But,
so, Al, Roy Thomas was, what was it, consulting editor for the first issue? Would that mean how much input, if any, would he have had with this arc, or at least the first issue?
So I would need to look at a timeline. The consulting editor, it may have just been that he is like the top editor and he signed off on whatever happened. He might have. That's because when I saw Jim Shooter's name on the next issue, Jim Shooter would have been, if he was not editor-in-chief yet, he was about to be. So I think it's just like this is the high-level editor signing off on what we're going to send to Lucasfilm. If I had to guess, I could be wrong. I'd have to. Jim Shooter might have something on his blog. If anybody's curious, he might have something to say about that. But if I had to guess, though, it would be like he signs off. He sends this to Lucasfilm. And so they don't have another Jackson situation.
Right. Yeah,
I did feel like.
Oh,
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I did feel like this arc made the Luke and Leia stuff from the Aduba 3 issues feel a bit unnecessary. Like they could have cut Luke and Leia out of those issues entirely, because it's all just they go over it all in these issues anyway.
Mhm.
It wasn't even very good in the Aduba 3. So it was kind of taken away from the story. I was getting like, do we really? We need to see them because these are the faces of
The movies.
brand at this point. But do we really need to see them?
Yeah.
They're not doing anything.
Right. I think it was just a little cameo just to say, and Luke's not even depicted. It's really just Leia, just to see what Leia's doing. I guess Luke and Leia were depicted in the very first scene before Han left Yavin 4 with his reward before it got stolen by Crimson Jack. But
Yeah.
I guess it was just to remind, like, if you happen to pick up a random issue and not the issue 7, I think is the first one that's an expanded universe story. But if you picked up one of those random issues, oh, it's not just Han. Luke and Leia are out there. We didn't forget about them. It's just they're off on a different mission at this point.
Andrew Helm says this wasn't the best story arc, but at the time, I was grateful that there was a continuation of Star Wars.
Fair enough.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of it's slightly weaker than the Aduba 3 arc. I did like certain scenes, like I said. I do like Crimson Jack, the other pirate, very unoriginal. He's not very interesting, even though he does have a backstory.
Yeah, he's a very involved one, apparently.
He's wearing a Santa Claus cape and G.I. Joe helmet and just fat and not very smart either. So there's nothing really redeeming about his character at all.
He's just the worst character of all time. They found the worst character of all time.
He's a stereotypical villain that has no redeeming qualities, that isn't very interesting either. It's just kind of whatever you kind of throw together. So I would place it lower than Pizzazz and Aduba 3, but not a whole lot lower.
Yeah, it was fine, perfectly fine.
Yeah. Like I said at the start of this, these are kind of like jobber issues. This is just like getting us to the next month. It's not like, we're not at the wheel yet. We're not at Empire Strikes Back, or we haven't even met the Tag family. So we're just building up, building time. These are just giving us something to do while
this would be like, if I could compare it to like TV shows, like back in the day, there was a thing where every TV show had to be like 22 episodes per season, even if the overarching plot of the season did not require 22 episodes. So they would never make these filler episodes that would have like some random villain of the week or random side story of the week, just so they can pad out the runtime to get to the stuff that is actually the point. So I feel like with these old 70s comics is like, well, we have certain things that we really want to do, but we got to fill in stuff for every month for the family. So here's this story.
And they were serviceable. I don't think they were bad. They were entertaining. It's just the fact, if you compare it to some of the other later Marvel arcs that reference other thing and have these continuing legacy characters like the Tag family and all that.
Yes, I love the Tag family.
That reappear, they're more memorable in comparison to something like this.
Yeah. This would be where in a normal Marvel comic they'd throw in Spider-Man for an issue and just have like a little adventure with him, something just to get them to the next arc. Whereas this is just we're having some fun with some dinosaurs and the worst character ever created, and Crimson Jack is back. So.
The throwaway issues are sprinkled in later on in the Marvel arc, but they're mostly one shots. You think of like issue 64, Serphidian Eyes, that has no relation to what comes before or after. It's just like this random thing. I think it's a different writing crew or whatever. So like the main writing team took a break and they have someone else come in for one throwaway issue. That's fine. I mean,
those stick out less because it's one issue instead of like a 4-issue arc.
There's that issue where we find out what happened to Wedge after the Battle of Hoth, and it's like, oh, he got stuck on Hoth, even though we saw him leave. He's getting in his X-wing to leave. Oh no, he got stuck there, and Wes got eaten.
Well, don't worry, that was retconned, I believe, to be a fun story that Wedge was telling. So that never actually happened.
That is very funny. I think that's very funny. that is what they tell new recruits.
When we cover that, boy, we're gonna have trouble with that in the continuity. I guess we'll just take it very lightly and just take it as universe story.
We'll preface it. We're gonna preface it. We're gonna do some D&D like role playing, and we're gonna be the fresh new recruits listening to Wedge tell a story, and then we're gonna go into the comic. There you go, perfect. All is good.
So next up next up, we have our first novel.
Mhm.
Ooh,
And now I'll say for the audience and everything, depending on the novel, as we get later on to like more of the Bantamera novels of the 90s and stuff, depending on those, I mean, most of them are only like around 300, but those might take an entire month, maybe even 2 months, depending on how much we have to say about the given chapters we talk about in the section. But we all felt like Splinter of the Mind's Eye was short enough that we could succinctly do that in one stream. So that will be November 7th is the plan, at least. It might have to change if something happens, but the plan is November 7th. We'll discuss Splinter of the Mind's Eye, the episode 4.5 of Star Wars. So.
Right, that'll be fun because it's been a while since I read that book. So our main plan is to sort of do these episodes every 2 weeks on Thursdays, and there might be some exceptions, but
sometimes a Wednesday. Yeah,
feel free if you're a listener or viewer, follow along, read up on Splinter of the Mind's Eye, and if you want the shortened version, you know there's a comic out there too. But the novel isn't that long. It's pretty short. There's just some of it drags a little on in the early chapters.
Yeah.
For those interested in the comic, I believe it is in Epic Collection, the Galactic Civil War, the Rebellion, whatever the title is, 5, the most recent one, or it might be 4. I think it's 4. Yeah, but it has been collected, and it is also on Comixology and Marvel Unlimited. So if you want the comics, they're available. Yeah. They're available.
I may or may not quickly go over it. I'm not going to spend the amount of time that we did for all the other comics that we take on. But after we talk about the book, depending on when we've ended the conversation, I'll quickly go over that just so people can see
the comparison. The main points that stick out, because there are some differences. But I think the 1995 version overall corrects certain things better for the continuity.
Yeah, it's the 24th of October, so we got a little bit of time to read it if you want to read alongside us and be able to have that full context when we talk about it.
If like me, you have the Dark Horse Omnibus that's in Early Victories.
Yeah, Early Victories. Yeah, I think that sounds right. It reminds me, now that we're talking about that, there is the scene with Luke and his lightsaber back in the Drexel arc that we just covered. There is reference to Luke thinking that Obi-Wan was guiding his actions with the lightsaber when he was using it, and that exactly matches when he fights Vader in Splinter of the Mind's Eye. So
spoilers.
Interesting.
It is a nice little connection there, if you want to take it that way anyway, from a certain point of view, some might say.
I mean, he could be, this is giving Luke not a great deal of credit, but he could be sort of misinterpreting the Force at this point, being like, oh, that's Ben. Oh, that's just the general Force. Could be that, or it could be, Ben's a ghost.
You could take it either way. So I think that works. I think the reason they give an explanation in the Splinter for why Ben was able to basically possess him for a second. But because usually otherwise that would, I think, break a lot of things if Ben could just do that every time Luke was in danger. But
well, he did sacrifice himself on the Death Star. Like he gave himself up, and he said, I will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. So I think there was something behind that. Now, what exactly that was, I mean, in episode 3, we got the thing about the netherworld of the Force and all that. But I think there's something to at least speculate, even if it isn't totally solidified and defined in the lore.
But that's all for next time. But overall, I enjoyed going through these comics with all of you. It's definitely not the best of what we've talked about so far, but it was still interesting. There's some, like, for example, I literally read this like a week ago, and I completely forgot the Han and Leia kiss, and that would be chronologically the first time we've ever seen that. So there is some stuff there to kind of like dig into, a little morsels.
That's cool.
So
that is very cool.
But anyway, until next time, have a good rest of your day or night or evening, whenever you're watching this. Thanks for being here, and thanks everyone for joining me. Till next time.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.